recording on this computer. All right, good. So you start off, Brandon.
All right, then, Mark, welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion. It is Brando doing an episode via Zoom. I'm doing it all the kids are doing. Everyone's now doing the Facebook and the live video and the Zooms. But this is cool. So on with us today, because what I'm going to do is release this as a video. I'll put this out on social media so you can watch it there if you want to stare at some people's faces and whatever else you have going on.
You're going to release this as a video?
Do you want me to? I don't have to.
No, I like that. I would have worn my Golden Robot top or my LA Guns top. I wouldn't have worn my Mike Tyson top.
He would have come in without a shirt in.
Stephen had no shirt on before, so we can go back to that.
Well, you do have Mark Alexander-Erber behind you. You have Use Your Illusion. What is that plaque behind you? It's like a little booklet of Use Your Illusion 1 in a giant Use Your Illusion 2 frame.
That's a guest pass, and that was originally signed by the band in 1992, I think.
Wow,
yeah.
The whole band?
92.
The whole band?
Yeah, everybody's on there.
Where'd you get that? Did you bid on it? Like, or were you there? What's this?
There's nothing on these walls. There's nothing on these walls, Brandon, that I've had to bid for. Let me give you the tip.
Nice. Unlike me, I had to buy that $50 Duff McKagan lithograph. But anyway, so Mark Alexander-Erber, CEO of Golden Robot Records, has just an incredible roster. He's been on the show before. Gilby Clarke has been on the show before. Hookers and Blow, or one of his clients. Also, I will not get your name. I will say it wrong. I'll mess up the sentence. But Kristen Tully, also from Golden Robot. You're dressed like Axel. So you're kind of in the mode
for today, I guess.
You got the bandana going, long straight hair. Say that again.
It was actually just a bad hair day. It's this covered in stuff.
Oh, me too. That's why I'm wearing my Fish Sticks New York Islanders hat. Same thing. I'm also bald.
Oh no, Islanders.
I'm an Islander fan.
No, Ranger fan. Sorry.
A podcast for another time, Kristen. But today's guest, I mean, you guys are obviously part of the show. You both are co-hosts today for Appetite for Distortion. But I'm really excited to welcome in Steve Riley from LA Guns. Yeah. Hey, Steve.
Hey,
good to see you.
Good to see you, too. Good to see our players.
I got to ask, because, I mean, there's a lot of things to ask. First thing is, I mean, because you look well, you look safe. Are you okay? Well, are you quarantined right now? The blinds are shut. Are you gonna are you around radioactive material? Are you okay?
I'm pretty much following the orders. We've been staying in and just going to the grocery store, maybe the bank, the essential stuff, and just staying in. Haven't been doing much outside, but kind of getting crazy. This is getting old now.
I know, it's like every day is Groundhog Day, and that's something that we spoke about with Mark and Kristen. Last episode was just how to navigate a business and navigate our business throughout all of this. But you did release a single because a lot of people are holding off, like Gilby is holding off putting out his album, but you put out a new song, which I gotta say it's a really good record. It's a really good song.
Thank you.
Crawl is really good.
Well, we really feel good about it too as the first single, and that's actually what's been keeping us busy. Thank God we got the single out. Kristen and Dustin have been keeping us busy with interviews, so that's been killing a lot of time too, and helping out with the record. But yeah, we're happy with Crawl. We're really digging the band right now and where we're at.
Well, Kelly Nichols was going to come on, and he's got something like 20 interviews that he's doing back to back at the moment. So it's quite incredible the amount of press that want to talk to Stephen and Kelly is actually blowing us away. The interest in LA Guns and the interest in this new Renegades album, which will come out later on this year. And we're just discussing at the moment the next single, which we're tossing up on what it should be. But we're pretty confident on which track it should be. But it's like that this single, this Crawl single, has come along at sort of the perfect time where people are wanting pure, fantastic, in-your-face rock and roll, and that has absolutely given them what they wanted. And I think that's why everyone's so excited about it, and that's why so many people want to interview Steve and Kelly and find out what's going on and what's next. It's been fabulous response.
I mean, I'm a bad liar, and it just, that song makes me excited to hear what the next single is, to hear what the rest of Renegades sounds like. But Steve, you got to be going nuts, because would you be on the road at the moment promoting, or where should you be right now?
I'll tell you what, right now we should have just finished doing the M3 festival and then a theater show right after that. But there was, up till this point, we've had like about 8 shows that we had to move or cancel. Hopefully they just postponed and they're moving them. And yeah, we should have been on the road by now and been really pushing it out there.
So how are you staying? Because I know just the hoopla around it is keeping you busy.
I tell you what, well, Brandon, you know what? I tell you what, in a kind of a morbid way, what's happening right now, like Mark was saying, this is kind of almost helping us right now, because there is nothing else happening right now. So with Crawl coming out, with the interest in interviewing me and Kelly, it's kind of like a good thing in a way, because if we were on the road, we wouldn't be able to do this many interviews. And so we're able to really concentrate on the single right now, talk about the album, talk about the band. And so, you know, we're looking at it in a good way, though, but it's kind of like strange way too, because of this virus.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. There's a few silver linings here. The time that the boys have got to spend on interviews, and not from the road and not rushed, is fantastic. And there's a thirst out there for this band. There's absolutely no doubt there's a thirst out there. I mean, you talked about Gilby's single. You know, Gilby's single and then video has gone gangbusters. So people want rock and roll. People, and I've said this to you for a long time, Brandon, and even back when we were talking last year with Alex Grossi and Hookers and Blow, etc. Rock and roll is coming back big time. It's always been there under this, you know, it goes through its ups and downs. But I'm telling you, 2020, 2021, rock and roll's coming back to the forefront. And you can tell by the streaming numbers now. You can tell by what's going on. Rock's coming back, and LA Guns is in a prime position to capitalize on the thirst for rock. But you can't come back with shit music. You've got to come back with great music. And if you think Crawl's good, you wait till you hear the rest of the album. It's going to blow you away.
The product speaks for itself, and I think that's the most important thing. You can have, I can't believe I'm going to use the word hoopla twice in such a short period of time span, but you can have all the fanfare around it. But if the music isn't good, if the talent isn't there, it's not going to matter. So the talent is there, and obviously people are still going to see you, Steve. And you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, because you are in the news a lot. You are on those, you know, Blabbermouth and other websites. Is it hard? I'm trying to think of how to phrase it. Is it kind of a double-edged sword for you to do the press, because you know what when you put it out there about, and all the allure and the controversy that may surround LA Guns? Do you like doing interviews still? Because if I haven't said it already, thank you for your time. Or is it hard knowing that what the people that are out there, you know what I mean? You know what I'm getting at?
Absolutely. You know what? It's not difficult for me at all. I've been doing it for so long, you know, with Keel and Wasp and now LA Guns for like 30 years. And I love talking to the fans. And if I got to do it through interviews, that's great. And, you know, I know there's controversy surrounding the band. There always has been. And I don't have any problem dealing with it either, too. People want me to comment on certain things. And I just kind of like, you know, skate away from it a little bit and try to go on to the next question. I don't want to get too embroiled in trying to make opinions on what other people are doing or what are they saying about me, because, you know, I can read some gossip boards and I can see some people really dig it and some people don't dig it. And if you can't take both of them, then, you know, you're in the wrong business. And I have no like problem knowing that some people don't dig what I'm doing. And but I think right now I'm really liking the fact that the majority of people are digging what me and Kelly Nichols are doing right now. And again, it goes back to, you don't have anything if you don't have great songs or great performances and a great band. And I think we have all three of those right now. And I am really excited about everybody hearing the rest of this album, the next single. And Crawl is just a taste of it. And it's because it's got such a great groove. That's why we went with that song. But the rest of the album just burns. And I'm digging on all of it. And so I really don't have a problem doing any interviews, you know, because I know good and bad's going to come out of them too.
Well, that's the right attitude to have, of course. It's just, it's like we all know it's there, that sleaze elephant in the room, the 80s hair metal, elephant in the room talking about LA Guns. And what amazes me is that, you know, both versions are successful, but what you've been able to do and the positive vibe you put out there through that. And even with the last interview that you did with Talking Metal, and I liked your answer that you never quit. You never quit. And I think that comes out in the music. It's like, I've been holding this flag this entire time. And I get that. And I respect that, especially from a guy who does a GNR podcast and all the controversy surrounding the name. And I love that. Sure. Axl's version of the Buckethead version of GNR. If the music's good, I love it. I don't get too much into the negative stuff, and you know, I don't, like, again, if the music's there, if the substance is there, I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah, Brandon, it's always going to win out. The song being good will always win out. You don't have anything without songs. You don't have anything without good material. And I don't know. I've always believed in everything that I've done with LA Guns, everything I did with Wasp too. I just always put my heart into it and believed in it. And like I said in a bunch of interviews, I never look back and say, oh, wow, I wish I never did that. Man, that was a bad decision. I wish we didn't do that. I feel like I always thought I got the decision out and I made the best decision that I could at the time. So I don't have any really regrets on what I've done, but you know, I really am the one who's kept going in LA Guns. Everybody's left the band at one time or another, and I've stayed on, and I think everybody knows that I've run the business for the band and I make things happen, and I don't have any problem doing that. You know, I wish I didn't have to do it actually, but I don't have any problem doing it. But I just feel like getting Kelly Nichols back on board, my right-hand guy with the rhythm section, the two of us have played so many good songs together and so many good shows together as a rhythm section that was like joined at the hip. And he is such a prolific songwriter. And he brought in so many great songs for this album. And like when we bring in songs, it's bringing in the gist of a song and then we'll all finish it together. But Kelly is just a great guy to have around. He doesn't like the controversy. He likes to skate around it too. And, you know, he's a good guy to calm you down too if you start getting pissed off. He's a good guy to have there. And he's just a really good friend. I'm glad I got him back.
You know what it is, Brandon? I tell you what it is. That at the end of the day, and we speak to so many different bands and deal with so many different types of artists all the time. And I understand, you know, the true artist, what they're like. They're like a chef. You know, chefs are artists. I used to own a lot of pubs, as you know, and chefs are artists. And they have to do things in a certain way. Their brain's wired differently to the way my brain is wired, for example, or your brain is wired. So you've got to understand the artist. And sometimes the bigger the artists, the more insecure they are about certain things and their talents, et cetera, et cetera. But I think at the end of the day, in this day and age, in 2020, 2021, the artists that are winning, for want of a better word, to use a Charlie Sheen word, the artists that are winning are the artists that are good people and nice people and easy to deal with and open to do things in a certain way and open to doing things a little bit differently. Like a great example is, I got Steve on, half an hour ago to Zoom. Now, if you thought you'd get Stephen Riley on a Zoom last year or 6 months ago, it'd be difficult. But Steve is a nice guy. Steve is a great guy, and controversy on one hand is good because people are talking about things, but on the other hand, when you sort of read different things out there, no matter what anyone thinks, they actually think the same thing. Stephen Riley and Kelly Nichols are good people. So if you've got good people, no matter what the controversy is, if you've got good people and a good song or a great song and a great album, and you put those two together, and they're also, from the label's point of view, very easy to work with, and open to ideas and open to doing things, then you've got a recipe for success. But if you've got one of those things that are out of balance, like a good song, but people that are difficult to deal with, and I'd love to give you an example now, but I'm not going to. But if you've got people that are difficult to deal with, everything then has a timeline on it. It's got an end date. It's got an expiry date, because it's going to get to the point where you're just not going to put up with it anymore and you're going to move on. Because this industry is hard enough as it is without having to deal with assholes. So I think that the combination of Kelly and Steve and Scott, the rest of the boys in the band, plus the fact that it's good, great rock and roll music and it's authentic. That's what people are loving. It's authentic to the brand and it's authentic to Kelly and Steve. It's going to work. And why should they get involved in controversy? They don't need to. They just need to take the high road. There's absolutely no reason for them to get involved in anything like that, because it's just their songs and their attitude and who they are as people speaks for themselves. And that's it.
Yeah, and I tell you what too, Brandon, it's like it always baffled me why musicians would even give time, because the time being interviewed is so precious to the product that you're doing right at that moment, that to talk about other people is kind of just doesn't make sense to me. It's a waste of time. And we never got into mudslinging, Kelly and I. We just don't like it at all. We know the fans are keen to it too. They don't like it. And so the thing is that we try to use every moment of an interview to talk about what we're doing right now, because that's the most important thing to talk about. People want to talk about the controversy. You kind of address it a little bit, but then you have to move back to what are we doing? We got to get back to what we're doing right now and what we're going to do. So I don't know. That's where me and Kelly are at, and we just will never, ever get into the mudslinging. Never.
Well, speaking of Kelly, of course, and I understand, the guy's got 20 interviews. Good for you, Steve, for not lining up that many. You're going to save your your voice and everything else that you need. That's a lot. It's very taxing for someone who's been on the other side. For my real job, have to deal with those what they call radio tours,
right.
And it's one after another with no bathroom break. Usually, it's a lot. So, Steve, if you need to go to the bathroom, just don't take the Zoom in there with
bucket underneath him. Don't worry.
But this is a question, and it comes from Australia, actually. Not from Mark. This is from a guy named Nate, and he wants to know what made Kelly come back to this version of to LA Guns.
You know what? When we were doing the album in 2012 for Hollywood Forever, he wanted to come back. During that album, he had expressed to me and Phil that he wanted to come back. This is when Phil was still in the band. He wanted to come back, and Phil didn't want to have anything to do with it. I don't know why, but he just wanted to continue on with the band we had. I was all for it because, like I told you, getting my sidekick back in the rhythm section, and actually we're best friends and always have been best friends through the whole thing. But getting him back was like, yeah, let's do this. And it didn't happen. So what happened was last year, I'm sorry, the year before last, those guys had contacted Kelly and asked him if he wanted to help write songs for their album. Kelly said, sure, send me over some of the material, let me hear it. And because they weren't going to send him some material maybe to shore it up too, and maybe some of his original stuff. Kelly wrote back and said, listen, this stuff is kind of weak. He said, do you want to just start from the fresh on it? Well, that offended them so bad that they went on the press and did exactly what we're talking about. They tore him up. I didn't read it. I'm not all over the internet like some people and read everything that's going on. But I heard about it, that they tore Kelly up on the internet and just said a bunch of shit about him. And he's a sensitive guy. He doesn't like that, and it really hurt him. At the same time, what was happening was I'm getting the offer to do M3 last year. And that happened right before I got the offer. So when I got the offer from M3, I called Kelly. And I said, do you want to do this? It's just a one-off show. And we'll do it and have some fun and see where it leads to. We don't know. We'll just go and do M3 and have fun. They want to hear LA Gun songs. And he said, Riley, what took you so long? And so we got together. We found Scotty and Kurt. Scotty has actually been with the band for years playing bass, but he's really a great lead guitar player. And Kurt was somebody who was floating around that should have been signed years ago and just never did. And so Kelly and I and Kurt and Scotty did M3, thinking it might have been a one-off. And that's how he got back in with me, just to do the show and see what happened from it. From that led to us getting management, to them contacting Mark at Golden Robot. And one thing led to another for another agency to take us over. And we are like full steam ahead right now. There's nothing going to stop us. We feel great right now.
If the coronavirus.
And Brandon, Steve and I were talking about the next album half an hour ago. So we got some big plans and big world tours. And once this second single, third single album and everything drops, as I keep using that word authenticity, once the authenticity is out there, even if you've got a divided audience out there, you're going to start, people that are pure lovers of rock and roll, forget the brand name, forget who's in bands. If you're a pure lover of rock and roll and that's what you like, it's like, I've said this to you before, everything to me starts and ends with Led Zeppelin. And, someone says, what's the best Led Zeppelin or what's the weakest Led Zeppelin album? To me, it's all good music, so I listen to it. So it doesn't matter to me what songs they are. So you'll find that with the authenticity and of when you listen to these other songs on the Renegades album, and then the thing that these guys are good songwriters, they're good craftsmen. They know how to put songs together, and that's why this is going to work. And then you get them live, woo! And you know what, Steve, you haven't played live yet, obviously because of coronavirus, but you haven't played live yet. With any of this album out. So when you go out on the road, hopefully at some point this year, whenever that may be, August, September, October, whatever it'll be, you're actually going to be playing live for the first time with this band, with a single or two out, which is very exciting, a current single out.
Absolutely. Totally exciting, Mark. And it's like I know what we're doing right now is going to build up more excitement with the fans. They're going to want to hear more of it. And, we have been around for so long, LA Guns, that we have a certain amount of songs that we got to play during a live show.
Yeah.
I mean, there are must songs in there that we have to play. And we want to pepper it with some of the songs from Renegades. And we're excited about doing that. But you're right, we have not played one show since this Renegades album was done, and we can't wait to play some of it live. We know it's going to go blaze.
What excites you about this lineup, this classic lineup of LA Guns? What excites you about it the most?
Well, I tell you what, the first thing off the bat is that when you look at a band like you just said, Led Zeppelin, and by no means do I compare ourselves to Led Zeppelin because I'm like with you, I'm such a fan of theirs. But when you look at Led Zeppelin, the rhythm section is so important in that band. Of course, Page and Plant are the front row center people, but you know, the rhythm section is the thing that drives the engine. And I'm excited that me and Kelly have a chemistry to play as a rhythm section because it's unmistakable. Us guys together, we play great. Switching Scotty over from bass to his real instrument lead is really exciting to me, and getting Kurt Froelich in the band because he's such a great talent, great songwriter, and just so anxious to do this. I'm excited about the people in the band being excited. It really makes me go, makes me want to do this.
Kristen, how is Steve like as a businessman? Is he cutthroat? How's he like to deal with professionally? Is he?
Steve's great. I love dealing with Steve. I feel like you're so funny. You remind me such of a New Yorker, just the way you talk and the way your attitude is. And I think also that's part of what people appreciate about the band and about you guys. You're authentic musicians. You don't really care about like the drama and the hoopla. You're just like, hey, let me do my thing and I'm happy to be here and that's it. And I think people appreciate that. And that's why your fans are, you know, loving it.
I agree with you, and it's true. That's really where we're at, Kristen. We just want to really play good music and write good music and have a good time. It's really all about that. It's like, you know, the drama scene that surrounds some bands is what a drag. Come on, it's a drag. We don't even want to go there in a little way. We want to just have fun doing this. But at the same time, we're real serious about putting out good music. We know nothing works without writing a good song. So we hope everybody likes it. The reaction to Crawl right now is exciting. Everybody's really digging on it. And Mark told you that's just a taste of what is coming on the album. We got such depth on this album. And yeah, you're so right. Everything's about having a good time. It's only rock and roll.
It's interesting. It's interesting because we're not arguing, but there's a lot of talk back and forwards between management and the band and us about what the second single should be. And what's exciting about that is because there's such a choice of which way you want to go. You know, with some bands, look, it's clear it's got to be this, this, and this. But with this particular album, there's such a choice of what should be the next single that I think that's exciting, and the music is very relevant to today. This LA Guns album, I find, is the most relevant LA Guns album for 2020, 2021 that you could ever write. And what I love about it is that when they went into the studio at the end of last year, I mean, in a week, you pumped it out old school. Obviously, you had your pre-production, you had the songs done, etc. But to pump it out old school, so you can feel that electricity on the album. You can feel the fact that it was done OG style, and I love that. You know, it's not fat and bloated. You know, 2 months in a studio. Mate, these boys got in, they got out, they did what they needed to do, they did it well. That's what I love about this album.
Oh, totally. I tell you what, Mark, when we did this album, it was such a rush because I've done the 6-month pre-production, 3.5 months in recording, and it's a drag. It starts to get diluted. You start to you can't figure out where you're at, and it starts to get a little muddy. This thing was great. We really utilized the internet. We had songs that we were sitting on, all 4 of us, and we sent them to each other. And we did that for a couple of months, had 2 days of pre-production from morning to evening, and went in the next day and started recording. And it was like Sabbath did the first couple of albums like that. It was like Zeppelin. They did their first couple of albums like that. Just go in and do it and play it, and don't think it out too much. You know, don't make it a big think tank. Just go and play it, man, and do it.
And you can see the vibe on that. If you look at if you go onto YouTube and you look at the behind the scenes footage of Crawl that we've put up now, it gives it that real electric, authentic feel. You can see the setup in the studio, and that's going gangbusters, that video, because people want to see how you recorded it and what you did and what it was like pre-coronavirus to get into a studio. It was only a few months ago, but it seems like years ago, right?
I mean, it really does. And we really lucked out, Mark. We talk about it. We just made it.
Yeah.
If we had delayed it at any point and said, yeah, let's do it in 2020, we would have been screwed.
Totally.
But we just made it. We went in November and we did the whole thing. I mixed it in December and mastered in December, and we got it to you, and we made it by the hair of our teeth. It was great.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, when I met Kristen in Australia with Billy Idol, that was January 31st, I think, and February 1st we were in Melbourne. I had 2 gigs on the same night. No, I was in Melbourne. That's right. You're in Sydney. I had to see the Billy Idol show because we had the kids supporting Billy Idol, which is my son's band, and I ended up jumping on a plane. But that was the last major Australian gig, really, because we locked down the following month.
It's amazing.
You were the last gig in Vegas too, literally the last show before they closed down.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Really
So
I think, it's something people are missing, the live music. And I think that's also part of what you're bringing back is, there's a groove when you play with a band in a studio and not recording separate parts here and there and piecing it together like everybody's been doing because they've utilized technology, which is great, but it removes some part of a groove and a feel for that rock originally has. And you're giving those people that live sense back because there's a vibe, there's a electricity when you hear a band playing together and grooving off of each other. And I think this album has that, and it's a really cool thing to see coming back.
Oh, totally. I tell you what, that idea of people flying in their parts from different parts of the world or different parts of the country, I just don't like it at all. There's nothing that substitutes for the band being in the studio, playing together. And that's how we pretty much recorded this. We were in a tight schedule, so we had to record pretty much live. We were all 4 in the studio together, and I think it translated to the album too.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty rare today. I mean, to get a band together in a studio, it's like, oh God. But, also it creates something that you can't, it's not a tangible thing, but you can't recreate that when there's 4 people or 5 people or however many people in a room playing together off of each other. There's nothing that can replace that.
But you talk about the engine room, right? You talk about Riley Nichols, right? What do you reckon are some of the best engine rooms, bass, drums there ever? I mean, obviously, John Paul Jones and John Bonham are up there. What do you reckon are some of the best rhythm sections of all time, engine rooms?
Oh, Roger Glover and Ian Pace, they're unbelievable. Geezer and Bill Ward, they were kind of overlooked, but they were the engine that was driving everything. And even Ringo and Paul McCartney, I mean, it was just, it's magic what they did as a rhythm section. But I love Roger Glover and Ian Pace with Deep Purple. I think they were great, and they still are. We actually got to do a show with them a few years ago, 5, 6 years ago, and I got to take a photo with Ian Pace, one of my idols, and meet him and talk with them, and it's still a thrill, to meet one of your idols. I'm like a little fan when I'm around.
Is there an idol still out there that you haven't met that you want to meet?
There are, you know what I mean? There's some people that I would love to meet. I'd love to meet Jimmy Page, and I'm just such a big Jeff Beck fan from the very beginning, from his Yardbird days. It shows you my age. It's from the Yardbird days all the way through whatever he's done. I follow Jeff Beck, and all of his drummers have been great that he's always had. And so he's been a real inspiration to me, Jeff Beck. I would love to sit down and talk with him. It'd be great. I met him briefly in Chicago in '76. I was in a band in Chicago, and we got to get backstage and hang out, and he was playing on his instrumental albums. I believe it might have been his second instrumental album, and we got to say hi to him and take a photo with him. But he's somebody I'd like to pick his brain about, because he's been in every situation and style. He's a real inspiration. But I got a lot of people that I really dig in music, and they're mainly people from the 60s and 70s, because after that, I started playing my own, and on a lot of records and in a lot of tours, and so I didn't get to follow a lot of people from that point.
But you still lived there, right? You were living in the Sunset strip. So I get to tie into the theme of this podcast and talking about the engine room. Did you ever get to what are some iconic like battery mates that you've seen? Did you see Adler and McKagan live in the infancy? Can you talk about some of the cool bands that you got to see while LA Guns, while you were doing your thing coming up as well?
Absolutely. And, we did some shows with the LA Guns and Guns N' Roses together here in LA. And we did Perkins Palace together. And I believe we did one other show with them. But Steven is a great friend of mine. And Duff's a really good friend of mine, too. And I get along good with all the guys in GNR. And I thought that they were a great rhythm section. I love Matty Sora. He's a great friend of mine, too. But when you split an original rhythm section up like Adler and Duff, you can see it, you can feel it. Even if the drummer or the bass player is really good taking the place of one or the other, they were great. On Appetite, you can feel it and you can see that those two really worked off of each other. And both of them are good friends of mine. I got nothing but respect for those guys.
Anything specific you remember from those shows, like a fun highlight or a moment?
Well, you know what? Both bands came out at the same time. GNR a little bit before LA Guns, and they just took off like crazy, GNR. We were still satisfied with what we did on the first album. I mean, it went platinum, and we had a great touring season for like 18 months with AC/DC and Iron Maiden and just a bunch of great big bands we toured the world with. But the thing was that we just we had that gig at Perkins Palace was exciting because both bands had been playing the club circuit in LA, and that was a theater show before both bands went out on the big road. But there was a feeling that both bands were going to do good. We were happy for each other. And it was just a great feeling. It was packed and the people were going crazy. And so that was a nice time right there.
But apologies if you've answered this question before, but have you watched the Dirt, the Motley Crue movie that came out?
I have not seen that. I haven't, no.
Because I'm wondering, because you've lived it. So I'm just curious of how accurate something like that might be. I want to see more of that, especially since Netflix takes, will take anything for a show. I want to see that era because now we're talking about not just because of the virus, but how are we going to do concerts going forward? In other countries, and they're bringing it to the States where you're in a car, you're in your car. It's crazy watching these concerts. But so I think there's now more than ever, there's a thirst of when was rock and roll dangerous? And it was kind of, I don't want to say it was okay to be dangerous, but there was no killer virus out there. But the height of rock and roll and
music industry was a different thing back then, though, too. You have to remember that was like the height of just the music industry. So like everybody was still buying records. We didn't have digital. We had all we had was the physical, and everybody wanted to go see it live and hear, have that experience of what they were hearing on their CD or on their vinyl or, so like it wasn't oversaturated the way it is now with streaming and YouTube and everything else. And so like it was a different time,
Oh, you know what, Kristen, too? There was a lot of mystery in there too. And that mystery is kind of gone a little bit too because of all of what you just mentioned. That mystery was so cool when you were just finding out stuff from Circus Magazine or Cream Magazine, and you were trying to figure out what was going on with bands. And I did it in my early career before I got signed, and that mystery is kind of what's missing right now. It's okay because at the same time, being able to reach a lot of people on the internet is something that we probably would have relished back then too. And it would have probably helped record sales and everything, but I miss that mystery part of the scene.
I think it's just that idea of like not being so accessible to the point where it's like, like now everybody, you can, as long as you have money, you can buy a meet and greet, meet the artist. So now there's no barrier. There's no like, oh, I look up to this person, they're my idol anymore. And there are no rock idols because of that, because we're now seeing like that veil is removed and it's like, oh, he sits around in his pajamas too. Like, people are, podcasting from their homes in their pajamas.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, on a human level, yes, we're all human, but like I think that's kind of what made rock and roll so like, you know, sexy and cool. And like it was the fact that like we were all like, wow, that guy, like that's so cool, man. Like how do we be like that? And you know, you wanted that vibe, and like that vibe is kind of like not there so much anymore in the sense of like the mystique. It's kind of like, yeah, like rock is still fucking rock, but there's not that mystery.
I think we know too much now because of the social media, internet. Maybe we know too much about people.
I think it started with the East Coast. I love that show and I love Ozzy, but it's like getting to like we got to know him too much.
Yeah.
I wanted a little mystique around Ozzy. I didn't want to know that he's that crazy.
Yeah. I get that. Like I would never go to the toilet in front of my wife because it takes away. You know, you're riding your big Harley Davidson one.
Never make it on the road, sir.
Well, you're riding your big Harley 1 minute, cool as ice, and then what? She needs to see you on the toilet. Wrecks everything. You just gotta keep some mystique in things. I reckon we know too much.
Will not be oversaturate, you know, LA Guns and Steve Riley, but we got you to use Zoom. So can we expect any like, you know, webcam performance or any sort of Q&A in the future? Any of that? Or this was a one-off?
Well, I gotta tell you what, Mark set me up to this afternoon on Zoom, and I feel like I learned how to fly to the moon because I feel like I'm that bad on computers that when he dialed me in on this and I got it, I was like, are you kidding me? This is working.
Totally. I was lucky he had clothes on because he didn't expect to pop up on the video.
Well, I'm glad you did. It was fun, obviously, just to see the beautiful faces of Kristen and Mark, but obviously to see Steve, you as well. You know, I like that shirt you have in your background. What is that? That blue collar
Hawaiian shirt? Yeah.
The Hawaiian shirt on your rack suit.
It is. It's a summer Hawaiian shirt.
I like it. Well, I hope you get to wear it on stage soon.
You have to be a rock star to get away with that. I'd look like a goof in that.
Yeah, we can wear anything.
Or wannabe rockers, or you know, the rest of us are. This was cool. So I mean, it's kind of just a wait and see thing as far as the singles that come, and obviously we don't know about touring. So, but the fact that we know that we are going forward, the single just came out, and there's more to be expected. So there's a lot to be excited for.
A lot more to be.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you, Brandon. And you know, like I said, in a weird way, this is kind of working for us because people are starving for any kind of entertainment right now. And so if we have some good music to present to them and we could do a lot of interviews to talk about what we're doing, it's just all good right now. So we're going to try to utilize it as much as we can and just have our fingers crossed. I got another grid sent to me from the agency. All of those shows that were going up to the end of July are now starting at the beginning of August and going through. And I'm hoping that you know, works and it does happen because you know, like I said, I'm gauging stuff off of sports. We're so similar and we've got a lot of festivals and people are shoulder to shoulder. And I don't know, we'll see how this works. Are people going to wear masks? Are they going to be able to buy merchandise? Are they going to, how are they going to handle tickets? I don't know. There's a lot of question marks. How are they going to see people? Is it general admission so everybody's standing? A lot of question marks right now, but I got this new grid in front of me. It starts in August and we got our fingers crossed, bud.
Those are all valid questions. And we're all in this together, and that's the solace I take out of it, is that we're all dealing with the same problem. So
that's right.
Hopefully we'll distract people a little bit for at least another hour with this conversation. And Kristen, again, thank you, Mark. We'll do this again. And Steve, obviously I hope we do this again. And when you are on the road and next time you are in New York, I would love to have you in studio.
I would love to do it, Brandon. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right,
Congratulations on your first Zoom. You did it.
Well done.
I can't believe it. I feel like I really accomplished something.
We're not a virgin anymore.
Oh, God.
Thank you, guys.
All right, see you, mate.
Thank you.